Unlike most panels where we only talk about success, I would like to speak about failures because I know I've been an entrepreneur and there have been many times where I've banged my head against the wall. In fact, you can see the signs on the wall where my head kind of didn't break, but the wall did. So Hari, tell us about your journey in terms of the failures and how you dealt with the failures.
Yeah, sure. So the first failure was the first venture I started. Actually, in a sense, it's something that goes back to '99 when we had set up a company called FabMart, and in fact, that was basically an online horizontal portal, exactly what Flipkart is today, exactly what Amazon was at that point in time, and we went into this market with a lot of hope, there was a lot of frenzy at that time, and the story about why we got into that space is not something I'm going to talk about right now, but we did eventually get in. And at that point in time, there was this one person by name Rajesh Jain. I don't know how many of you all would have heard of this story. He actually sold his company to Satyam at that point in time and made a few $1 million. And that was the first Indian, in that sense, who became very popular for making millions of dollars through a sale of a company in the tech space. And that created a lot of frenzy amongst investors. A lot of them started putting in money into a lot of these startups. So going back, actually, 1999 was a year where so many startups came up. But I must tell you, at that point in time, there was no broadband. Internet was being used on what's called dial-up lines. And so we had started FabMart by selling music. And essentially, we were selling cassettes at that point in time. I don't know, any of you all would have even seen them by now. So every time you download details of a cassette, actually you could actually go and have a cup of tea and come back. And that was what the speed of the internet was at that point in time. One, people are building e-commerce businesses on the internet, and there weren't payment gateways, right? So you couldn't actually pay on the internet safely. What used to happen is that people used to give their card details on the net. Merchants like us used to take those details and authenticate those details at machines at our end and send it back. So it's scary to even think of the fact that consumers will allow such a thing today in an evolved state. So there weren't payment gateways. The internet was slow. Technology was just about falling in place. And in the midst of all this, there were hundreds of companies trying to set up e-commerce businesses. And to me, that was the biggest learning that came out, that ecosystem being ready while creating a startup was so critical. And there was no ecosystem. And that company eventually shut down in 2008, 2009. We kept it going because, as entrepreneurs, you're so attached to what you do. Thankfully, we pivoted very, very quickly within a year into the physical grocery space. And then there was no looking back because that really did well and we were, managed to get a good exit and, all that happened. But that online business, which we started with a lot of hope, actually just went, just died. The same story of Webvan. So that was, to me, one of our, something that we started and didn't take off. And primarily because I don't think we gauge the ecosystem well. And that's, I think, one of the most critical things that I tell people today is that, firstly, make sure the ecosystem of what you're trying to build is ready and it's available. Otherwise, the businesses won't take off.
Thanks, Hari. Priyanka, what have you had in terms of failure that has probably made you more resilient as an entrepreneur today?
I mean, the definition of being an entrepreneur is hearing the word no a million times, right? At every single stage, the word no basically becomes your best friend. You're trying to hire the best people. You don't have the kind of the salaries to throw at them, but you really want the best people. Like, convincing them is a kind of a game of yes and no. Trying to fundraise, you knock on every single door you know. Most of them will say no, and then only a few will say yes. So that kind of resilience, I think is primarily within your DNA, and it's also a muscle that kind of gets developed over time and time, right? To your point, Hari, about ecosystems. So we decided to venture into the digital media content space. And it is not as sexy as e-commerce, was and is right now. It didn't have this kind of frenzy of investors chasing, thinking that digital media is going to become the big next thing, although it's happening a little bit now. So at that time, when you're trying to convince people that we have the mind space, we know how to make millions of people, in my case, women, do a particular thing, you're trying to sell something to them, we know how to get them there. So all those were negotiations that you're constantly having with investors. Most of them are male investors as well, right? And then trying to explain to them that e-commerce is a system built by men, for men, the female brain works differently, the way that we shop is different. I mean, you just have to look at how a woman enters a mall and how a man enters a mall. Hari would probably know he needs his blue shirt, he'll go where he wants it, he'll pick it up and he'll be out. I'll walk in with my friends, we'll be talking around, we'll grab a cup of coffee, we'll kind of walk in to buy a dress and come out buying shoes. So the male and female brain is wired differently for shopping. E-commerce online today is built by male engineers for men. So I think there's a huge disconnect in the way that we are serving half our digital population today. And that is the gap that companies like ours with content rights to fulfill. Now try explaining that to a room of male investors. So it all becomes kind of an interesting uphill battle at times. And I think resilience at that point is extremely important, because if you take the first or the 10th no, and then you give up in life, right? So I think that's something that we've learned. Ideas change, ideas evolve, and you have to learn to roll with the punches and get up. Because, things are going to knock you off your path, things are going to be tough. At that point, you have to say, it doesn't matter, we live another day, and then you carry on. So that resilience to carry on is extremely important.
So I have a question for you, Priyanka. You talked about male investors and going and raising male investors. So Hari's previous company, Webvan, raised over 800 million and then it filed for bankruptcy. So, and then of course, right now he's raised 300 million from Alibaba. Do you feel as a female entrepreneur, if you went and did the same, that people would be writing you those big checks too?
I hate to bring sex into the amount of money being raised for any reason, right? I think it's easy to put your money and your belief behind something that you know and something that you understand. I think the gap actually comes in that space. As a female running a female-focused product, pitching to a male investor group, that is a challenge. If there was a female investor group, they'd understand the pain points instinctively. So I think the gap comes from there. I don't think it comes because I raise less because I'm a woman, or he raises more because he's a man. It's just the way that the environment is currently built up right now.
What do you think, Hari? You've been around the block many times. You've raised tons and tons of money. And is it, what was it that got investors to still believe in you, to give you these, crazy amounts of money? There must be something secret there, or special.
Yeah. Why investors believe in us right now, I think, is because I think they have this philosophy of backing people who are standing up there and and doing well. So that's the reason now. But I must go back to the first fundraise that we actually had started doing for Big Basket, which is in 2011. And incidentally, Webvan was not me. So Webvan just happened to collapse at the same time that FabMart was actually going downhill. And then when we came back, this is the same team that got back together in 2011 to start Big Basket. And we were there in the market, wanting to raise our money. So, other than ecosystem, the second thing that I think is so critical in this business to raise capital. And people keep coming with great ideas and great thoughts. And I keep telling them, if you don't have the capital, I think you should not even start, because, taking a little bit of money, starting, then getting stuck again, and it's such a big pain. So coming back, so we were out there in the markets with a deck, presenting. We met 5, 6, 7 people. It's not very different for men either. So the first story is the most difficult to actually break. And we told ourselves that we should try and raise the Series A, and then we didn't want to do angel and stuff because we knew this is consumer-facing business that requires large amounts of capital to actually build the business out. We used to go through our deck, and the last slide of the deck used to be Webvan. And so investors, the only problem they had was that this business doesn't exist anywhere in the world. Nobody has actually done online grocery except Ocado in UK, and that's just one company. Tesco.com is doing well because of having a physical presence and stuff like that. But everything in the US had collapsed in 99, 2000, thanks to Webvan. And there was no company that got funded on the online grocery space since then. And we were here, 2011, trying to tell investors that we want to build a large business around online grocery. And the last slide was Webvan. And that was all that the investors were waiting for, right? And reached that slide, they said, oh, there's nobody else who's done well, and so pass. So you go to the next one. What we did within about 2, 3 presentations is that moved that Webvan slide to the first slide. So it became very simple, So to finish the first slide, then you look at the investor, look at his expression, and we started even asking, saying, should we proceed further? So the couple of people who said proceed further, one of them funded us. And so the whole thing about raising capital, it's such a hard, humiliating problem. It's the same for them too, for the VCs. It's not easy for them when they go and actually raise their funds. But the thing is that if you raise the first 2 rounds and show reasonable scale, ecosystem was absolutely ready in 2011. We were 2009 onwards, Flipkart had started showing serious transactions on the internet. Serious transactions. People actually buying. Payment gateways were ready and done. They were behind you. Broadband was there. You had mobiles. You had everything that you really needed. And the business that we did actually in about 4 months in Big Basket took us about 3.5 years in that first venture. And that was what the difference was. So ecosystem being available and capital being in, then you get funded. There's because they can't give it up. They've put in money, so they can't just throw it away.
Yeah.
So, Priyanka, with this, 39 million monthly active users, do you see PopXO going away from the, I just went online today and I saw Priyanka Chopra getting married, and she said that after people who come for my wedding will need a vacation after that, right? So it's the popular news, which is then, and that's why PopXO. But you truly have a phenomenally powerful platform for powerful messages. This morning we had the Me Too session. We have gender diversity, pay, equality, etc. Do you see, and if you look at Teen Vogue, 15, 20 years ago, was all about the popular, clothing. But today it's become a very, very politically charged topics are being discussed. So do you see PopXO leveraging your platform?
She promised tough questions, and she delivers. So look, we are a data company, actually, in essence. We track the reading, we know the reading, watching habits, consumption habits, what women care about, to a minute detail because of the number of, we get 200 million interactions every month of our content. So we know exactly what they want, and we're able to predict what's going to work. So for example, when a celebrity wedding happens, or say when Priyanka Chopra decides to get married, now that the wedding is happening this weekend, we have a team of 30 people who are working 24/7 to make sure that every single thing that is happening breaks with us first. We get the first hit of traffic on that. When Deepika and Ranveer got married, in a single day, we got 300 million page views because of the wedding. So we are really good at mining what's happening and being able to kind of drive traffic down a particular way. So it helps us do what we have to do as well.
But you haven't answered my question.
I'm getting to that. So to your point, we also help shape the way that women are thinking about certain things. So from day one, we defined what we were not. We were not about fairness. We were not about skinniness. We were not about feeling bad because you don't have enough money to buy a particular thing. Our tone always was positive. It was upbeat. It was, you go, girl, you can do it as well. So those are the values and ethos on which the platform has been built and grown. Now, the thorny questions, the Me Too was, it was an amazing movement for us. It worked in terms of our brand. We did a phenomenal amount of coverage of Me Too and all the things that happened around that as well. So whatever is in the popular imagination, we grasp it and we shape it and we tell it in a way that sits with our positive kind of a brand ethos. The most interesting and the most heartening thing for me is, even like today when I was coming down at the airport, the guard who was doing the search, she's like, oh my God, I read PopXO and you are the founder, right? I'm like, yes. She's like, you make me feel happy and positive and I feel I can do anything. So if that is the message that we are able to impart to young women in India today, I think that's our job is done on that.
That's fantastic. Hari, as Big Basket, there are so many very, very powerful challenges that we have, which is the environment, organic food, farmers. What is Big Basket doing for these different communities that you engage with? Because I think organizations like yours, who are really buying from them, would be interesting to know how you're giving back. We heard in the morning that the weavers, they get 1,000 rupees even if a sari is sold for 20,000 rupees. So how do you engage with farmers to make sure that they are well looked after?
Sure, Lathika. There are 3 things that I want to talk about in this space, and all 3 of them are very, very, very dear to us, in terms of our own philosophy, values, culture. The first is, we are in Big Basket about 16,000 people today, right? And 80% of them are blue-collar workers, right? Now, I hate to use that term. We call them associates internally. So they are our delivery boys, our drivers, our warehouse pickers, packers, and a whole bunch of those people. So almost about 14,000 of them are actually that, those set of people. That's our single biggest challenge today, right? And if you ask me what keeps me awake, or what do I look at when I wake up first thing in the morning, is that, do I have enough of those people on my roster? 30 people short, and the business suffers, right? Now, they are set of people not educated, because we don't need education there, right? So all you need to make sure that they're 18 years and above, can read and write a bit of English, because everything that they do from a picking, packing, and technology standpoint, using the app, etc., is in English. So that's all that's required from their perspective. They come from extremely difficult backgrounds, right? For all you know, the person who has to report at 6:30 in the morning and make the first delivery at 7 o'clock with a smile, he's the only customer-facing guy for us. Everything else is on the internet. Is such a hard thing, because the previous night, that same boy would have seen his alcoholic, drunk father beating up the mother, and all such kind of things happening in their homes, and we witnessed this. And you expect the same child to come next morning and deliver, make 13, 14 deliveries with a smile. So that's the first thing that we are working on, is that making sure that we give enough and make sure that they are kept happy. So we've set up a trust. That trust essentially educates their family. We have these rewards and recognition programs, and every quarter we call the families of these boys who win. And you won't believe it, Lathika, when they come there, and when this child is receiving an award in front of about 400 people, the parents start crying and weeping, because they've never seen that before, right? So that's the first piece, that we're actually working on, to see whether we can become the most preferred employer for blue-collar workers in this country. Second is our huge Farmer Connect program, and that's something that we're really proud of today. We work with about 8,000 farmers today, and 80% of what we sell in fruits and vegetables is bought directly from farmers. We've got set up 36 collection centers, etc. But importantly, what we have done by setting up a trust there, our next step is to look at setting up a trust for the farmers, so that we can actually then look at educating and taking care of their families, and make sure that they don't actually start moving to urban societies and struggle there, because nobody wants to be in farming, and the second generation is all running away. So idea is to try and keep them there. The important thing is that, can I get a larger part of the farmer, rather than having many farmers, and hence get better discoverability. And let me explain this in a minute. If we need say 100 tons of a vegetable, right? One choice is to my collection center saying I need 100 tons. Farmers who can give me the best price and the best quality come. So hundreds of farmers will come. You choose the quality and you choose. What we've chosen to do is to work with a set of farmers only, so that I become eventually 80% of that farmer's life, right? It's a risk in terms of price discoverability. But I think over a period of time, when you actually build those relationships, everything works out. So this is a very, very critical program. We are probably the only people in this country who pay the farmer on day 2. And 100% of the money that we pay him goes into his bank account. All farmers have got Jan Dhan accounts now, which they've opened, and the money goes in there. And what happens in the process, and this is real, what happens in the process is, every time a farmer collects cash from the mandi or from some intermediary, there are 5 of his people standing there to take that cash away, because the farmer owes them money. Now the money goes into the bank. There aren't those people there anymore. His savings have improved. He's actually doing a lot better financially, and that's what we want to do with that community, going forward. And third is environment. We've always been an open delivery company. We deliver in open. I'm presuming there are a lot of big basket customers here, so we deliver in open crates. We don't deliver in plastic bags. It's all given there. Everything that we do, even in plastic, is made sure that it's biodegradable and food ready and stuff. So we've been conscious from day one, right? No bags. Thanks to which we find it difficult to deliver to corporate offices, actually, because the guy goes with the crate and the receptionist opens it up. And it's all spread across in the receptionist table. And so somebody has to come and pick it up and take it. So I think environment, farmers, and blue-collar workers, which I just added, are 3 biggest initiatives of ours.
So what, as PopXO, what kind of plans do you have for a better world? I know PopXO is engaging with 39 million, but is there anything else that you're doing as a founder?
I think developing more entrepreneurs out of the PopX ecosystem is an important thing for us, right? We have 150 people who work with us right now, and they all at some point will move on, and most of them are first jobs with us as well. So their first experience of working life is in a female-led, primarily female company where anything that they do is absolutely possible. So they haven't heard kind of a lot of the constrictions that other people might feel in other companies as well. So that sense of empowerment is something that we're imparting. Our content already does that. I think being available across multiple platforms where the audiences already are. So if you look at the 39 million monthly active users, we have 21 million monthly actives on Facebook, we have 11 million on YouTube, we have like 8-9 million on our own app, 7-8 million on Instagram. So by being where our audience is and by talking to them in the way that they like to be spoken to about things that matter to them in an empowering fashion, that's normal for young women to read up and first thing in the morning. And that sets a tone for how they want to lead their lives, how they want to become better in all centers of their life. So that, and plus we work with different charities in Delhi, etc., with different schools. We get lots of requests for them to come over. They want to see what PopXO looks like. So it's just making them feel that anything is possible. So if you have a generation of women who believe that anything is possible, we really hope that we would have done our job in helping some of that happen.
Great. So I'd like to end, Hari, I'm absolutely, it's phenomenal that you have a $1 billion valuation unicorn, but really what I'm most envious is I hear you have musical talent, and then when you and your sons get together, you jam to me. That's the highest form of envy that I could have. So I'll just end with you telling us about what you do in that field, and we should be done with the panel.
Yeah, so hopefully Big Basket will let me off in a couple of years, and the next thing I want to do is get into music. Actually, I've just set up a music studio, which my son runs. It's currently, he's running it very commercially and, essentially selling space for people to come and jam and people to come and produce music. But what I want to do through that studio is that create a bunch of young musicians who are actually looking for places like this. I'm also part of a chain that's, a chain of pubs actually in Bangalore, which I've invested in 2 old friends called Sherlock's. And I see these young groups working in IT companies, coming and playing there. So what they do is they get together in the evening, somebody's house, and the talent is phenomenal. Actually, they are so good in whatever they do in all the genre of music that if they're given some facility and given some push, I think there's an opportunity to create a set of musicians and move them up to the next level. And that's what I really want to do post-retirement. I don't know when that will be, but soon.
I'm happy to join you there. Anyway, thank you.